I've been asked to say a few words to introduce this book of mine called Prophet, the Stupid View of President Hillary. It's a very offensive title, but it's certainly attention-getting. And I'm talking about all the global leaders. And indeed, I would say the leaders that are well paid in economics departments who are misleading us and have been for 200 years. The leadership of the globe, whether you're thinking of a person like, say, stupid Putin, or the gentle yet stupid Pope Francis. That's a very challenging statement to make. Can I do a summary? Well, I can say the hint is that it's a revolution. Today, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren spoke in Denver, Colorado. It's a few weeks before the election. And they both said that there was a revolution coming on November the 9th. But it happens to coincide with the emergence of my little book, my little offensive book. The book is a much deeper revolution. Can I give any hints? Well, I give the hints in the second chapter of the book. There is a single flow of money in the present economic analysis. And you get that in the diagram, household to firms. And that diagram in all the standard textbooks is elaborated on, and you put in all the twists and turns of government, tax, export, import, etc. But it's still household and firms. And what we have to find against the entire tradition is that you can't do serious scientific economics without splitting the class of firm into two classes. Firms that produce capital goods and firms that produce consumer goods. They intertwine and oscillate and give us all the misery that we are now accustomed to. But I'm not going on. I think I will just get into the job on hand, which is to read from my introduction a little bit and then from the first chapter. So from the introduction. It is useful for us here to begin by recalling two speeches of the first night of the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia, July 26, 2016, those of Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Warren spoke repeatedly of the rigged system that Trump exploited and supported. Bernie Sanders magnificently weaved his support of Hillary Clinton around his own push for a political revolution and economic justice, pausing over the wage problems of the middle classes and indeed of life unlivable on the $7.25 per hour minimum wage. My position is quite simply stated, and my inspiring authority for it revealed when I give immediately a single quotation from the originator of the view I espoused. It mentions a basic economic expansion and a second step in economic evolution, about both of which we shall muse. I will muse during the book. But here you have it, written with the blunt confidence of a masterly, innovative understanding. I quote from Bernard Lonergan's For a New Political Economy. The difficulty emerges in the basic expansion. In equity, it should be directed to raising the standard of living of the whole society. It does not. And the reason why it does not is not the reason on which simple-minded moralists insist. They blame greed, but the prime cause is ignorance. It is not then the rigged system that is the grounding fault, but a gross overall stupidity. It is not a matter of some tinkering round with the problem of minimum or middle class wages, but of a massive shift in wages blocked for centuries by a pseudo-scientific economics. Of course there is a rigging that backs and sustains the pseudo-science, and here I'm quoting again Lonergan, a gentlemanly ring that conspires against the public, the gullibility of society in accepting profit as a criterion of satisfactory enterprise. Bernie Sanders was right in mentioning the Koch brothers in his speech, but his own view is clouded by the cultural influences of their gentlemanly ring and the general gullibility associated with their outreach and the mood of present economics. Why I tackle the Oval Office? Well, we'll come to see that in the book. The tricky issue, the issue of this little book, is the helplessness and the fixity of that stupidity. I'm going on now to the beginning of chapter 1, which has the title Parallel Stupidities. There are many ways to begin our effort to identify the stupidity that concerns us in this little book. The stupidity is one of a backwardness grounded in error. Think of the mistaken astronomy of assuming that the sun moved round the earth. Think of the other stupidity in astronomy that held that the heavenly bodies were of a different matter than those found on earth. Or think of the mistaken chemistry associated with the name phlogiston that held sway for centuries. In all these cases, the stupidity is identified best by finding out at some level what was missing, what is missing. What I mentioned at the beginning, that there are two flows in the economy that have to be analysed. There are two types of firm. That's what I deal with in chapter 1. And is it obvious? When Columbus came back from discovering America, grandees gathered and he heard a group of them talking about, well, what an obvious thing it was to take off into the ocean and find America. And Columbus presented them with an egg and said, why don't you people try and stand that egg on its end? And they couldn't. And Columbus stood it on its end. It becomes obvious when it's done. When the revolution has taken shape by 100 years from now, it will be pretty obvious that we were living a vulgar, deprived, oppressed life in these past centuries. A life created in the main by views on politics and economics.